Welcome to part 2 of this video in which I show how I pick my higher time frame weekly movers to enter and add positions for in the week. So it's lately it looks like my higher time frame anticipations are quite accurate and reliable, and my main area of improvement now is catching these trades on a lower time frame with the lower time frame stop loss and everything, and making decent risk to reward trades. And in order to do that, I need to anticipate when the pullbacks will start and end in a better way. But anyway, going back to the Aussie yen, we were at last time. Aussie yen, it made my list because it's a nice area on the weekly. Last week the move already started, but I thought this week there's still good potential for it to go up. And on the daily, the whole piece there was, when I did my analysis, the sell started coming down, and I anticipated that there would be some sort of reaction. Next, CAD yen. CAD yen did not make my list, but my anticipation on this was that it would still go up a little bit, because I see that on the weekly it is still within an overall upflow, and in this section it's consolidating a little bit. The sellers from over here at this resistance tried to go lower, but they couldn't. They just stopped, and then the last week this strong move happened, this buy, and this week I'm anticipating that the buy would continue on to at least a bit above the sell on this time frame will happen from this area. I still anticipate it, but it's too close to resistance, so it's not. It didn't make my list for a higher time frame play. So New Zealand yen also I was very interested in, and this is because similarly to Aussie yen, I see that it started basing and it's reacting from great buyers area over here where the weekly buyers are. And that last week the move already started, but this week I anticipated that the move would continue and go up a little bit to this area or that area. And on the daily, I saw that after this reaction by the buyers, the sellers were coming down, and I anticipated that the sellers would react from around here at this support before going up, but that didn't happen. It looks like the buy is still happening. So currently I am anticipating a little bit of a pullback before the buys continue, but I don't think this is really where the sells will start from. I anticipate the sells to start a little bit higher. Excuse the plane. Just gonna wait until the plane passes by. I don't know if you can hear the plane, but anyway, plane's gone. As I was saying, what happened, but it looks like the up move is still happening. So I am anticipating some sort of pullback to happen before the buy continues. I think the sells would start from higher up, but that made my list of high time frame picks to buy. Usually, I've got Aussie US, Aussie yen, and Aussie CAD, and New Zealand US, New Zealand yen, and New Zealand CAD. I prefer the Aussies because the Aussie is a little bit stronger, as you can see from my analysis over here. Aussie is looking pretty strong across the board, whereas New Zealand is only strong. Aussie has a +6 in my assessment of strength, and New Zealand is +4. So I anticipate the Aussie counterparts to do better. Now, Pound Aussie, I did expect this to move down for this week, so that's why I have Pound Aussie as going down this week, and that's because this is reacting from a decent resistance area, and last week I saw that there was a bit of a slowdown happening from that weekly candle, and in the daily what I saw was there was a reaction over this area. So I'm anticipating that there's going to be some consolidation to happen here. So not a very clear directional bias, but overall I think it's ready to just go down a little bit or start its move down. So it didn't make my list for either a buy or a sell because it's just in this area where I expect some sort of positions to be built up first, and there's no click, and this is not one to catch and ride just yet. But after actually after the fact that it reacted from this resistance and is going down. I may be interested in catching this for a sell, depending on momentum. Yeah, depending on momentum. But it's not one of my it's not one of my main picks, because this is still going massively counter trend against this huge up move over here and the overall upflow, so it didn't make my list just yet. I would need to see some more build up of positions first before I'm more confident of trading it down. So pound CAD did make my list actually, and pound CAD really interested me, and this pound CAD is the only one so far in my list of picks that is not going as per my anticipation, but I'm confident that it would still play as per my anticipation, if not this week, maybe next week, so relatively soon. And the reasoning is I anticipated a sell on pound CAD because I saw that the bar is up over here. They were leaving some wicks on top, showing me presence of sellers, and especially after this candle, which showing me that the buyers are really losing a bit of momentum. I anticipated some sort of sell to happen, that is, and this was clearer on the daily, because on the daily I saw that this strong move happened, but I was on this, the market was on this candle. I knew that at this candle probably the buyers are going to go up, so I did expect this actually, but overall I am anticipating some sort of consolidation to happen here first before the sell happens. But this did make my list because I think it's getting close to going, and this just seemed like an interesting pick for me. So currently I have my alert line here, because I anticipate that price would need to at least get to that alert line area before the sell move starts. So this pick was probably not the best for this week, and I did make a note of that. I do actually write comments on my picks and write comments on how good they are. So yeah, clearly you can see that for pound CAD, my comments were pound CAD, my comments were, may not be a big rider just yet, but there is an early sell opportunity in the lower time frames at the start of the week. So it's still consistent. Even though it's on my list, it's still consistent with my views. So I wouldn't really consider this as a failed anticipation. It's still within anticipation scenarios. Now, pound New Zealand, I anticipated that this would I think I anticipated that this would start to go down, but let me check. Yeah, I anticipated that this would go down this week, and that's because I did remember I was not really seeing much of this candle. I was mostly on this candle, and that's because it's reacting from a pretty good area, and on the daily I was seeing some sort of slowdown happen. So I was anticipating that there would be some sellers building up their positions on the daily before the down would have happened. It didn't make my list because this consolidation is just starting out, and I need more confirmation before I can take the trade and ride it down my list. But my anticipation is that it's going to go down this week. Aussie CAD did make my list, and Aussie CAD I was really interested in, and New Zealand CAD also I was very, very, very interested in. So Aussie CAD made my list because it's near a very good buyers area, monthly buyers and weekly buyers. So if I go up to the monthly, you can see. If I go up to the monthly, you can see that it's reacting from a very nice monthly area. It could be a very nice range sort of buy. So so I was very interested, especially after this candle, which shows a bit of slowdown in the sell move, and especially after this strong candle, which shows that which is like an illusion, gives an illusion that the sellers are strong, but they're only able to make a marginal lower low. They're not really able to finish and follow through very well. And so I was anticipating that this week would be quite good for a move up on the weekly. So on the daily, what I saw was started, and when I did my analysis, it was around 6 hours into this candle, and this really comforted me, because I have this strong, seemingly strong sell candle here, wick on top and everything, but what's it able to achieve? Nothing. It's not able to achieve anything. Then the buyers just take control again, and we're starting to resist this candle. So I was anticipating a move up. I think it's going to go to at least around this area, if not around this area. So it's on my list of picks. Aussie New Zealand, this was on my list of picks last week, and last week this is on probably my second best pick for last week, despite the fact that on some of the lower time frames it looked like a neutral pair, because Aussie and New Zealand were showing very similar structures in when compared to when they were compared to other pairs. So for example, Aussie US and New Zealand US, they had similar structures and everything like that. But I was still confident in this analysis, in that very strong, this move in the week before showed that seemingly sellers are very strong because they leave a very strong wick. But they're not able to do anything. The buyers hold grounds, and that week I was really anticipating the good move up by the buyers, which happened. So that was excellent. So there's a good anticipation. This week as well, I am anticipating that the move up will happen, that the buyers would go up. But I'm a bit less confident in that now, because the move is already much further it can go. So, but I think maybe I should add it on to the list. From recent price action, I can see that sellers try from here, didn't make a low, try from here, didn't make a low, buyers are coming back up. I'm actually going to include this on my list of picks for this week. Okay, so Aussie, so that made my list. So my bias on Aussie New Zealand is a buy, and that is consistent with my view that for all of these other pairs, let me just show here. For all of these other pairs, I've got Aussie Yen, Aussie CAD, Aussie USD as well, New Zealand Yen, New Zealand CAD, New Zealand USD as well. And in all of those, as I mentioned before, I prefer the Aussies because they are looking a bit better. The Aussies are looking a bit stronger than the New Zealands, and that's consistent with this view over here. So, oops. So Aussie is consistent with this analysis over here, where the Aussies are a +6 in terms of strength, and the New Zealanders are only a +4. So Aussie New Zealand I am interested in, but given that there are actually weaker pairs like Aussie Yen, I think I'm actually going to remove Aussie New Zealand from my list, because I don't want to because they are both looking pretty good. And I think this week, even though it may be a buy, it may not be a very smooth buy, and that would make riding the position a little bit more difficult. So I think maybe that was the reason I didn't have it on my list. So that's not going to make my list. Now, New Zealand CAD final pair. I think this was one of my best anticipations, right? So it looks like the anticipation is working as well, and the reasoning for this anticipation is the following. It's reacting from a very nice monthly area, and last week it had shown me that there was some sort of slowdown happening, and especially with this candle, which looks strong, but they left a wick on the bottom. And comparing this with the daily story, and this was, I think, key for this anticipation. I actually had New Zealand CAD as one of the best buys, looking like an excellent buy up to the top of New Zealand CAD. Quite an early catch, but could be a decent buy. But it's bottom catching, lower time frame setup is good. So the reasoning I thought this was a very nice buy for this week was, it's reacting from a great area. Sells come down, and they started to base a little bit recently, and especially after this candle, which looks like the sells came down because of that wick on top, but then the buyers are holding grounds. And I was 6 hours into this candle when I did this analysis. It looked like the buyers were trying again. So I have this on my list of buys up to at least around this area. That's what I'm anticipating. So that made my list as well. So overall, those are my picks for the week. I'll just show very simple. Again, I just look at the weekly and I anticipate which way the weekly will go, and from that I choose the ones with the highest potential for smooth movers to enter and ride. Thanks, and comments and questions are very much welcome.